I'm Caroline Parker and I'm an actress, and I've worked with Birds of Paradise 3 times on different productions. It's such a lovely company to work for, lovely people. Also, very interesting productions, because they're not your traditional taking the script from the page to the stage kind of thing. We not only just perform the shows, but we make sure that they're accessible as well with sign language, which is my expertise, and captioning, and also audio description. So there's a lot more to Birds of Paradise than coming to see a show. I think it's very important for this work to continue to be made, especially by Birds of Paradise, is because so few companies do it. There's not many companies out there. There are a few, but not many. I don't know how many in Scotland, but in Britain alone, there's only about 4 or 5 companies out of how many companies that exist. And how often can a person with a disability have access to a theatre, have access to the show if they're blind, have access to a show if they're deaf? I think there's too few companies doing this, and I would like to see more, and that's why Birds of Paradise needs to continue and carry on doing their shows for another 25 years. But also, it would be nice if it was the norm just to go to a theatre and have your needs met. Because when I go to an interpreted performance with the interpreter at the side of the stage, I always feel I'm sitting in a doorway, and the creativity is in one room and the access is in another. And so, you know, you get creativity there, but you have to look away in order to get the access. It's like watching tennis. You know, you're constantly, well, who said that and why? And not all interpreters are theatre aware. And I don't know how blind people manage to go to the theatre. I think there are fewer audio described shows than there are signed. So that's why this kind of theatre is so important. I'm very rarely employed just as an actress. I'm usually employed to act and translate a script from English into BSL. But not only BSL, creative BSL. I want to make sure that my translations reflect the theatricality of the language. So very often it's not pure functional sign language, it's the creative, it's the poetry, the songs. I don't just sign the words, I perform them. And that is the difference between myself and an interpreter at the side of the stage. I'm a performer with sign language, and most of the time I'm signing access. But most of the time I'm a working actor on stage as well. You don't get to see that very often. That's why Gary Robson brings me in, because I have all this experience, and Gary is brilliant at bringing in the right people to influence the show, the performing of the shows. So it's not necessarily Birds of Paradise itself. They do create shows that are very, very different, but they bring in the right people to make those shows influential. I have such happy memories working on the mall. And all I can think of was when we were in Hong Kong, we had 2 days off in the 3.5 weeks we were there, and we made the most of that. And there was one day trip that we did when we went on a cable car over, it was a 25-minute ride, and it was a crystal floor, and we were all in this this car thing, clutching the edges, looking at nothing but us and the trees underneath. So we are guaranteed wherever we go with Birds of Paradise, you'll see something very interesting. If not the show, certainly going out sightseeing. So there's lots of lovely little memories of touring. When we were touring with Crazy Jane, we ended up at a theatre that was next to a lake, and we looked out of our dressing room and there was a castle on an island in the middle of a lake. Now that's touring. That is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But Scotland's a beautiful country anyway, so we're guaranteed that. But also the people that we meet after a show, and they come and say, oh, it's not what I expected. I didn't know what I was expecting. You put many different levels and layers in a show, and that was, you know, from an audience member who had no idea that it was going to be a play about or with disabled people in it. So hopefully we're influencing people, that disabled people are not just at home rocking. We are out there making contributions out there.